Hey, welcome back to Cards and Comics, and today I've got a video for you that kind of a long time in coming for me. I just never wanted to put together because I'm always adding to this collection. But I think I'm at a place now where I can show it off, and I'm about 90% done, and I don't think some of the cards will ever change, so I'm okay with showing it now. It's the first collection I ever started. It started in 1986. It's my Roberto Clemente collection, and it's been kind of the only collection I'll probably never get rid of. When it all comes down to it, it's the one thing that has been constant with my collecting and never changed. So, and some of these cards I've actually graded myself, and some of them I've had for a long time. My first graded card from PSA was a 61 Clemente, so it's not the same one. I have upgraded it over time, but it just kind of that's what started me. Yeah, my love for vintage Clementes kind of grew from when I was a kid. And so yeah, we'll start and we'll go in a reverse chronological order. So the first card I'll show you is my 73 Topps Clemente. This is a PSA 9, and it is a grade that doesn't happen very often in my collection. I believe it is the only 9. I don't collect 9s, I collect 8.5s. If I was going to just say one grade I have the most of. So 8.5s are my normal grade, and so this is not the normal, but I graded this card. So this came from an SGC crossover. So yeah, so this is sort of my first real big hit, I guess, crossing over cards. And yeah, and I love the card, so I'll always keep it. It's perfectly centered, and it's just a really nice card. And the back is a little off center, and I think this is what gets people upset when they see like Mint 9 cards and they see a card that's 80-20 on the back or whatever. But it's well within the PSA guidelines for this grade. So first card, 73 Topps PSA 9 Clemente. Next up is a 73 O-Pee-Chee Clemente. PSA 8. And so yes, I am trying to put together the O-Pee-Chee runs, and I'm actually, a few of the O-Pee-Chees aren't with me today, so I have a few more than what's in here, but we'll mainly focus on the Topps cards. But this is an O-Pee-Chee. It's a PSA 8. You can see the back. It's cut about the same, maybe even a little worse than the other Clemente. But you can see the difference, the whiter back compared to the Topps, which is a duller color. You can see the difference there. It's an 8, tough. It's a tough 8. I'm going to just say, like, it's a hard 8. So, I'm really happy to have that in the collection. So next up is 72. And yeah, it's an 8.5. Again, a really nice card. Very happy to have this card, because this is really my second Clemente I really ever bought, because I put together team sets, and I started with the year after they won the World Series. So in 71 and 60 they won the World Series. So the first cards I ever really got a Clemente were the 72 and the 61. So I've always had this card at some level since I was a kid, and so this is the highest grade I've ever got on this card. So I'm really happy to have that card. In kind of the final grade, next up is a 71 Topps, and I think it kind of speaks for itself. It's one of the nicest 70s, probably the nicest 70s Clemente. To me, it's iconic, just the way that card looks. I have had this card multiple times, and it keeps going up in value, and I've decided, yes, I will love to get an 8.5, but I doubt it due to pricing right now. So I'll probably keep the 8 and be very happy I have it and not have to pay current prices for it, because it is sometimes kind of crazy what that card will bring. Next up is my 70 8.5. Not the hardest card to get, and definitely not the rarest to grade, or hardest to grade and rarest to find. But 7.5s are still pretty tough, and I like the card. I've always liked this card, and I just think it's a cool photo of him with a bat. I like any photo of him, kind of batting. And yeah, probably keep this one in this grade forever as well. Next up is my 69 Super Clemente PSA 8. Really love that card. I think that card is a little undervalued. These are hard to find. It's probably his second or third most popular, let's say, non-standard Topps card. Obviously the 68 3D is his most popular, most expensive. I really like this one. I think the 64 stand-up would be probably number 2 for me. Then next up is my 69 Clemente 8.5. And this card is got super color on it and super gloss. And that's what I love about the 69s, is that you can get that color and gloss and they just kind of look wet. And if you look at the back, this one also has a really, really nice back. So overall, I mean, this is just a really nice grade, really nice Clemente. Very, very, very happy with that one. Probably will never try to get the 9, even though the 9 in that year wouldn't be too bad comparatively. Next up, 68. I've always had a hard time finding these 68s, that I like. Either they're off center or they don't have the color and gloss I like. Even 8.5s, I've actually turned down a few 8.5s just because I thought they weren't nice enough. This one is probably as good as I found, and I just, I do like the card. 68s are hit or miss for me. Some Hall of Famers, especially if they're just like a photo of the guy's head, I just think they look ugly, and so I don't like those kind of cards. So this is a cool batting pose, so I like it. 8.5. Next up is a fairly inexpensive card of Clemente, I think. It's 8.5. It's the Manager's Dream with Tony Oliva and Chico Cardenas, and I really think the card itself has got up a little bit of value. But yeah, I mean, if you want an affordable card with Clemente on it from the 60s, this is definitely a way to go. It's an 8.5. It's again, nice for the grade. Now here's probably my favorite Clemente card of all time. That's not a standard card. For me, I think this is the coolest Clemente card that people don't see very often. And it is a 68 Action All-Star sticker. And so there's 2 Clemente. So one of them has him as kind of 3 other players. It's like a multi-card panel, or has multiple players on it. This is the card of him by himself. The panel with him by himself. And they were sold, I think, 3 panels in a pack. So you would get the attachments here. You can see how it was attached, the perforations here. And so this card is just a really cool card. It's a big card, and obviously comparatively to a regular size card, right? It's a huge card. It's just got a classic look to it, and I think it's hard for me to think of a cooler Clemente card. And value-wise, I don't really know. This card doesn't sell very often, so I don't even know how to value it. I wouldn't even give a person the price on this. They would have to offer me something ridiculous to find it. It's probably, I think, the second or third highest grade of this card because they're insanely hard to keep in good shape. Let's see the back; it's just blank. So yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's this coolest card that nobody really sees very often or really knows about. Next up was sort of my second largest purchase last year of Clemente, and that's the 66. The 66 is interesting for me because it is so hit and miss in terms of how it can look. It can be tilted. It can have thin borders, or like people would call like minimum size issues. It can have really good color. It can be almost faded and greenish, yellowish in color. I mean, this card itself, if it's centered with great color and gloss, it is a beautiful card. And, I think this is a good representation of this card. It's an 8.5. it has enough color and gloss for me to, I think it deserves a grade. And so I picked it up last year to pick a big hole in my collection, and I'm really happy I picked it up. Next up is the 67. Yeah, I think I'm out of order a little bit. Oh well, we'll just go in the order we got here. 67. So 67 Clemente, 8.5. And again, this is a card. It's probably the card I like least. In fact, 67s in general are the year I like probably the least in terms of getting Hall of Famers. Just picking them up because in general, most 67s, like the Maze, the Mantle, the Aaron. I mean, the Aaron's probably my favorite of those three. Just don't look good. They don't have like, that classic look. A lot of them are headshots. They just, to me, aren't my favorite cards. And so I just, yeah. So for this card, I think this is nice. I don't think I was going to fall in love with any 67, but this one's got some really nice color and gloss. So yeah, I'm happy with that one. Next up is kind of the hole. So I should have went 67 first, but I don't have a 65, and so that's the only hole in my Topps main run, the Clemente. I've had the 65 before. Don't get me wrong. I've had it multiple times, and I had a 9 at one point, and I sold it to buy some other cards for my Clemente collection because I thought the 65 is actually very easy to find, but it's gone up in cost because it's such a popular card, and I just think it's kind of an iconic looking card. So I don't have a 65. I'm looking for an 85. That's my number one target for this year, to fill that hole in my collection. And when I do, I'll have the complete base Clemente run done. So, but in lieu of that, here is my 64 stand-up. And I bought this and the Mazarowski stand-up at the same time from the same dealer, and I'm very happy with it. I think it is a really nice representation of what this card should look like. And these are tough. They chip. They have white on them. The back is, sometimes you can see the punch out more than others. So yeah, and I've had this card a long time. It's the holders will be cleaned up a little bit, but I think it's, a cool card. And again, I think for most people, it's probably his second most popular non-standard Topps card. Next is probably, I think it is the nicest 60s card I have of Clemente. It's just, I don't know. I don't know really how you make this card better. It's got perfect centering for the most part. It's got great color. Just those tremendous white borders. Yeah, I just really love this card. It's my favorite card. And it was a pickup from last year. So it was early in last year when I picked this card up. And so I kind of thought, yeah, this was going to be the top of my 60s pickups. But then I picked up the 66. So wasn't expecting to pick up both of those cards last year. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite pickup of last year in terms of 60s. And I think it's his nicest looking card from the 60s that I have, in terms of just this card technically is graded, it's an 85, but if this card said 9, I don't think anybody would really care or fight that. I think it's that nice. The next up is probably my hardest 60s card to get. I think the 63 Clemente 8.5 is incredibly tough to find. This is just a nice version of it. It's got a lot of color and gloss. You can see kind of the gloss reflected. To a lot of people, this would be like their favorite card from the 60s of Clemente, and I can totally see it. But the reason I don't like this card as much as I probably should is because when I was a kid, this card was so hard for me to get, and even trying to find it. It just, I couldn't find it. They were always just really beat up, and just could never find a copy I really liked. And so it kind of made me just kind of give up on finding one. And then, of course, when grading took off, it was much easier to find nicer ones because you knew kind of what the grade was. Um, so yeah, this is definitely a card that I'm super happy I have. And an 8.5, and I got it obviously when before the big price explosion, because that card I have no clue what it'd be worth today. But I've had this card for quite a while. 63 Flair, it's not hard to find. I like the photo. I've always liked this card. To some people, they don't like 63 Flares. I think they're a really clean, nice set. I think it's like 60 cards total, so it's an easy set to put together. Maybe 88 cards, something like that. This is card 56. I think it's in alphabetical order, so I mean, maybe 80 cards. I don't know how many, but it's not a big set. There's some Hall of Famers. Obviously, it's missing some of the bigger names, but Clemente's in the set, Mays is in the set, Koufax is in the set. I mean, it's a cool set. But yeah, I always like this card. I wish the blue was a little bit bluer. I've seen this card with a little bit more color, so that's the only thing I kind of regret about it. But it's a nice card, and I've had it for a while. So, yeah. So this card, again, I purchased this a while back, the 62 Topps, and it's even got the older flip, and yeah, this card can be a challenge. Even in the higher grades, you can definitely see chipping. You can see, being off center is not uncommon. And the thing I don't like about 62 is that you'll see sometimes is the line. So you'll see a line here at the bottom or at the top. And those lines do bug me. And I had a dealer once get so mad at me because we were working on a deal and he offered me, a 62, some player, and I didn't want it. And I was like, I don't want a 62 with a line across the top or the bottom. And he's like, it's part of the card. It doesn't affect the grading. And to me, it affects the eye appeal. And I don't want to pay a lot of money for a 62 Topps Clemente and have a big black line at the top. I just don't. And so that's my preference. I can choose not to buy those cards. And yeah, he was super mad. He basically said I was stupid for not wanting a card like that. And we all have our preferences. So hey, I think this card is nice. It doesn't have those issues, and I like it better. And the back is pretty nice. And again, I probably had this card, for 10 years. So I've had it. It's one of my oldest Clementes, and I picked it up right, when I could afford a little bit more than the $300 type Clemente cards. So next up is 61, and so from nostalgia reasons, this is my favorite 60s Clemente. I know it's not the most valuable, and it's actually the coolest Clemente. It's just it was the first Clemente I ever owned. Was the 61, and so it was the first PSA card I've ever purchased, and it was actually the first 8 I've ever bought. And it just to me it is a card I like, and it's got huge nostalgia reasons for me. And when I picked up the 8.5, it was kind of sad for me because my original collection goal was to have every Clemente and an 8. And that was just the goal, like every Clemente and an 8, even the rookie. And that was my first. And then I realized I probably won't get the rookie until maybe I win the lottery or something. Something, sell everything and buy that. But as I was collecting and I had almost every 8, the 8.5 grade came out, and I really liked just how nice those 8.5s were and how they were such a value compared to 9s. And I slowly flipped some of the cards into 8.5s, and now I just kind of went all in. And so now I have this as an 8.5, and I really love it. And it's probably my favorite, always from a nostalgic reason. Now, the next card is, again, some folks would say this is their favorite 60s Clemente. I love it, and I've always loved this card, especially if it has this deep blue without a lot of print in it. That's a huge bonus to me. Centering as well, and then the white borders. This card has it all. It's an 8.5. Obviously, I think it deserves the grade, or I wouldn't have bought it. But it's nicer every time I look at it. When I pull this card out and just kind of go and look at it, it always impresses me how nice this card is. And nowadays I probably couldn't afford this card, or at least I couldn't afford it, as like without selling or trading something to help with the price. But I'm glad I have it now, and I'm really stoked that it's in the collection. Next up is the 59 Clemente. This is an 8.5. And if you saw my prior video on my Aaron collection, you'll notice I have an Aaron 8.5. And, that card is, probably my nicest Aaron I have in terms of just total grade. And I really love that Aaron, the 8.5. And this Clemente, it's really nice. The one issue with the Clemente is, sometimes you get the white and the yellow kind of washing each other out, and so it's not as contrasted as some of the other cards in 59. However, this card has got a lot of color and a lot of gloss, and so it's it's not my favorite 50s card for sure, but it's super gone up in value. All 59s have, all 50s cards for general, so you can just make a blanket statement. If you got a 50s Hall of Famer, you did well if you kept them. Especially some of the upper tier Hall of Famers like Clemente, Aaron, Mays, obviously Mantle. So very happy to have that one. Next up, is a card that I'm really kind of surprised I have. I did get it within the 2019 period, and it is the 58 and an 8.5. I have had the yellow letter in an 8, and it's one of my biggest regrets is when I sold it. And I sold it around the time I was moving to New York, and needed some extra cash, and I'm really regret selling the 8, the yellow letter. But to have the 58, just the white letter, this was the 58 is to me like just it's such a hard card to find. It's always been one of those cards that dealers overprice. If you ever find a nice one, you never got this card at VCP, or if it was nice. And you go to card shows and there were always $500 over whatever guide you were using, SMR, VCP, whatever you're using, that it was going to be more expensive because it was just such a popular card. And I agree, I love this card. I think it's one of the cooler cards. Just the full batting pose Clemente in the 50s is just super, super awesome. I had a chance to get this card. I sold a bunch of cards to get it. It was super expensive even in 2019, and but I'm happy I have it, and it's probably a 50s card I'll never get rid of. And I'm really stoked about that one. And again, it is probably my nicest 50s Clemente I have. I think it's nicer than the 59. Next up is a 57 Clemente, and this was graded before the 8.5, so I could always dream that this is an 8.5. It is a really nice card. It's got some nice color, nice gloss. It's a little off-center top to bottom, and so I don't know if it ever would grade the 8.5. And then one of the interesting things about it, and for people who collected 8.5s back in the day, and they put out a kind of note about what's an 8.5. And one of the things they said was that centering wasn't the biggest decider between 8s and 8.5s. And I thought it was funny when they said that, because me and a lot of friends who were collecting said, oh, okay, well then it's edges and corners. So we're going to send in our nicest edge and corner 8s and get a bunch of 8.5s, right? Then all of a sudden, only the center cards came back 8.5s. It was such a funny thing because, and then we've kind of learned eye appeal was the big thing, and so that taught us a lesson to listen to PSA, because sometimes they do not tell you the truth, and that was definitely the case when you went to resub your 8s for 8.5s back in the day. Now I think today maybe they're a little bit more open-minded to some off-center 8.5s, but in general, 8.5s are very hard to find them if they're really off-center. Like a 60-40 8.5 is definitely not as common. Back to this card, I think a lot of people think this is the nicest 50s card. It's hard, for me. I love all the 50s cards, but from a aesthetic perspective, it's a little more on the boring side. But I think it's a 50s Clemente, and it's a really nice grade. So I will always love that one. Next up, the 56, and I'll start with the back. So you can see it is a white letter back. It's a little off center, but still within the grading parameters. And then you go to the front, and it is a nice 56 Clemente. So I picked this up in, I think, in 17 or 18. You can see it's pre 8.5 flip. This was my card that I knew I could get into an 8. So this was going to be like, yeah, I can get this card. I can get his rookie card, but I can get this card in 8. And it was going to always be my second nicest Clemente, besides getting a rookie card. If you look through my collection, you may make a big argument that the 58 or the 63 or the 60 or whatever is a bigger card, or how you propose it. But I personally think this card is going to gain a lot of value in the years to come. I think as people can't afford high grade rookies, they'll go to this card next. And I just think it's going to be something that we see be a huge card from now on. And I love it. And this is one of my favorite cards of all time. And and I think it's just hard to understate how collectible that card is and how desirable. And we'll end up on the rookie. And so I was able to get this in 2018. It's the third PSA 7 rookie I've had of Clemente. It's super nice. It's a little off center top to bottom, this way to this way, but it's got tremendous color and gloss. If it was centered better, it would definitely have graded, I think, at least a 7.5 or an 8. It's got great corners. It's a hot card, and it's gone through its moments where it's gone up in value, gone down a little bit, and again, it's a hot card. I don't really pay attention to prices as much as I should, so I think right now it's hot, but I don't know if it's the hot vintage card like it was a few years ago, where it was like doubling in price in 6 months. So I think right now it's just gone up in value because everything else has gone up. But I will say this, going to card shows, I used to take my Clemente rookie with me just to kind of display it. And no matter where you go, you put a nice Clemente rookie on a table and you get reactions. Like you get almost like that cardboard lust of people who just want the card. And it's just, one of those cards that is always going to be iconic. And to me, when I got it the first time, it was almost like a religious experience. And this time around, I got, when I sold it the last time, I was again to pay for my move to New York and help with bills, and able to replace it with such a nice copy. And I did it the right way. I saved, I traded some cards, I sold cards. I mean, I did it the way so that I didn't have to take any money from a bank account to pay for it. So, I was able to replace it and do it the right way. And now that I have it, I'll probably never sell it again. So that's my Clemente collection. I'm missing a few O-Pee-Chee cards, and they're not, the reason they're not in here is because they're like 7s, and they're going to be replaced. So they're not the final version of those cards. So until I get the final version, I didn't want to really show them. But I do have some of the other cards that are Peaches, and a few other, league leaders and those kind of cards too. So, but in general, this is my base top set with a few of the cooler inserts, or not inserts, but non-standard tops cards and a few Peaches thrown in. And that's what I've got. And I've been in the set registry on PSA for a lot of years, and I've always been in the top 10, 15, and I don't know where I am today. I haven't updated in a long time. So We'll see. I mean, if I updated it, I could probably maybe get top 10. But it's not been the goal. It's always been to just have a Clemente collection I really enjoyed and one I could afford. So this is kind of the best I can get. I'll never get nines. I'll never have a straight 9 collection like you see on the registry. I'll never get the 10 rookie and do crazy stuff like that. But this is as good as I can get. It's taken me, since 1986. So, uh, you know, 34 years of, of updating and constantly buying Clemente cards to get what I have. And so hopefully you enjoy it. If anyone has any questions, you can send me some comments and I'll answer you. But this is kind of the basis of my entire collection. So everything is based off of this. So hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you next time.